Well, good evening, everybody. I'm John OLoughlin. Welcome once again to McDuff Lives. And tonight, McDuff lives on ginger beer. Once again, our favorite sponsor here, Belvoir Fruit Farms Organic Ginger Beer, gently bubbling with real root ginger. And that's true, folks. They also have blended in just about the right amount of lemon juice to make for me. And I know that's rude of me, but I love that sound. Don't you love that sound? I do. Well, if you don't, I'm sorry. I can edit it out later. But I thought tonight, tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day, and we have to get ready. So let's cheer up a little bit. Have a sip of your favorite brand. Oh my goodness. David Underdown, you got some Diego Rivera, huh? Yeah, I have some. And we should talk about that sometime. Yeah, not everybody knows about Diego Rivera. And a happy St. Patrick's Day to you, David. Yes, I see the 3 shamrocks there. And, well, everybody's getting ready. All the birds back behind me here, they've all gathered together, and they started practicing the chorus parts for the songs we'll be singing tomorrow night. And so, if you have favorite Irish songs that you want to sing along with us tomorrow night, send them to me. Put it in the chat. I'll take a look. If you got one you want to sing, there's so many great old Irish songs. All right. Well, I have a tendency to get on with the blarney a little bit before I start my readings, and I hope you don't mind that a little bit, just for fun. I'm noticing I have a little bit of reverb tonight, which I usually don't. I wonder, oh well, it's fine, isn't it? So we talked about the nun last time, and in the course of their surveillance of Wallflower, which is Joe Cassidy, our hero, they were able to finally catch an illegal meaning somebody who's not there with a diplomatic cover, but just simply snuck in the country. And an illegal Soviet agent calls himself Gilberto Lopez y Rivas. He was the first illegal ever surfaced by a double agent operation of the FBI. And that is the end of chapter 11. And it reminds me of when George and I discovered that my father in the Irving Scarbeck case was part of the arrest of the only State Department employee ever convicted of espionage. And interesting that my father is at least mentioned a good bit in this book. Although, of course, by that time, he's with the Pentagon. He leaves the FBI in 1962. Chapter 12, Palmetto. Having traced the man in the white slacks in Mexico City, the FBI made an astonishing discovery. Gilberto Lopez y Rivas, on an espionage mission to Florida for Soviet intelligence, had rented the Volkswagen in his true name. The Bureau now had enjoyed 2 lucky breaks. Had Lopez not initially forgotten to leave the public's bag at the drop site, or had he used false credentials to rent the car in Miami, the FBI might never have identified the skinny young man who picked up Wallflower's 3 rocks on Snell Isle. Gradually, the details about Lopez emerged. The son of Gilberto Esparza Lopez, an accountant, and Rosa Morgado Rivas Lopez. He was born in Mexico City on March 6, 1943, which meant that he was celebrating his 28th birthday on the day that the FBI agents had watched and photographed him from Jerry Kuntz's condo. Lopez attended the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico, where he earned a master's degree in 1969. For 2 years, from 1967 to 1969, while a student at the university, he was a research assistant in anthropology for the International Olympic Committee in Mexico City. In 1968, Lopez had married another anthropology student, Alicia Castellanos. The couple had a boy, Nayar, and later another child, Ali. Lopez was a leftist and an intellectual, and it was clear that his central concern, and possibly the driving force behind his decision to engage in clandestine work for the GRU, was his outrage over the treatment of Mexicans and Mexican Americans in the United States. Fury over the plight of Chicanos in America appeared in almost all of his published writings. In 1971, the same year that the FBI identified him, Lopez published Los Chicanos, una minoría nacional explotada. The book's title reflected his view of the United States as a nation of ruthless gringos exploiting poor Mexicans. Many Mexicans and Americans have sympathized with the problems faced by Mexican Americans, especially migrant workers, who often toil in terrible, unsanitary conditions, performing backbreaking labor for low wages. Millions of Americans supported the efforts of Cesar Chavez to organize the grape and lettuce workers in California. Most of those who championed the attempts of Mexican Americans to achieve a better life, however, even those who are harsh critics of American society, do not act on their views by becoming spies against the United States. Lopez did. Somewhere along the line, probably while he was a student at Mexico's National University, Gilberto Lopez was recruited and trained by the GRU. 5 months after he had flown back to Mexico, Lopez re-entered the United States at Brownsville in August 1971 with his family. Through records of the Immigration and Naturalization Service, the FBI learned his destination, Salt Lake City. Lopez, as it developed, was returning to school. He was working on his PhD in anthropology at the University of Utah. He was placed under surveillance in Salt Lake City, and his apartment was wiretapped and bugged. George M. Owen, an FBI wireman, was sent out from headquarters to install the electronic surveillance on the Palmettos. Although, this is a footnote, although Palmetto was the FBI code name for the Lopez phase of the operation, the term was used interchangeably to refer to the case, to Lopez himself, or in plural form to Lopez and his wife Alicia. Even though the drops in Florida were now activated, Cassidy traveled to Washington again on July 3, 1971, to get new instructions and meet personally with Mikhail Danilin. The GRU officer said he had received the documents that Cassidy had left on Snell Isle, which meant, of course, that Lopez had gotten them safely to the Soviets in Mexico City. Danilin then told Cassidy what kinds of documents he wanted from Stricom. He instructed Cassidy to look in particular for documents dealing with future U.S. military exercises. They discussed the dates and locations of the next several drops in St. Petersburg. Inside the hollow rock that Cassidy picked up before the meeting was a package containing $10,000 and new instructions on a microdot concealed inside a postcard. The package also contained a blank sheet of paper with secret writing that duplicated and backed up the instructions on the microdot. Cassidy was told that he would be sent to Mexico again the following July. This time, Danilin provided detailed instructions for the contact. Cassidy was to stay at the San Marcos Hotel on July 22nd. Before noon, he was to confirm his arrival by placing a red chalk mark on a white fence pole on Calle Rio Lerma near his hotel. Also described were a dead drop where he would leave his film, a meeting site, and various signal sites. Cassidy was not thrilled at the news. Aside from the risk of meeting the Soviets abroad on dark streets, there were the gastronomic dangers lurking in Mexico City. The next domestic drop was set for the night of September 10th, 1971, at the same palm tree on Snell Isle. O'Flaherty again prepared to station agents in Jerry Kuntz's condo and in the engineering company. Learning from the previous drop, O'Flaherty arranged this time for a third observation post. The third spot was a private school on Snell Isle Boulevard. I approached the dean, Gordon Tucker. He had to check with the board. Charles Randolph Wedding, who later became the mayor of St. Petersburg, was on the board, and he approved. Promptly at 9 p.m., Cassidy made the drop at the base of the palm tree, as O'Flaherty and the agents with him watched. This time, Cassidy left films of a document stamped top secret, another marked secret, and a third marked confidential, as well as other material. The document marked top secret was entitled, quote, U.S. Stricom, Programming Plan 2-71, dated June 22, 1971. It described the establishment of the U.S. Readiness Command under instructions from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The document stamped secret dealt with the withdrawal of U.S. forces from Vietnam. It was called Letter of Instructions for the 8th Incremental Redeployment of U.S. Army Forces from RVN AGDA AM 6 July 71 OPS ODTR July 14th, 1971. As the FBI agents waited, tension built inside the darkened condo. Then, around 9:30, the telephone rang, and O'Flaherty grabbed it. Quote, an agent at the school site called me on an open phone line, a landline as we refer to it. Jack, looks like we've got him here. Female driving, child in the car, and another unidentified male. Gilberto Lopez was back, this time with his wife Alicia, their young son, and a second man. The FBI cameras were whirring away. O'Flaherty continued his narrative. The subject gets out of the car, a gray Renault, license number LP9414, about a block from the drop site, and starts walking east on Snell Isle Boulevard. He cuts into a yard and again comes out from the bushes. This time he comes out right around in front of the tree and picks up the rock. He left a paper bag at the tree. It was a Publix bag both times. His wife stops right below our LO, the lookout. She pulls up the car past the intersection and waits for him about a block beyond the drop. He crosses the street, walks a block to the car right under the engineering firm. He gets in and they drive off the island at the eastern end. 3 months later, on December 20th, the espionage ballet was repeated with the FBI at the same 3 observation posts. Inside the hollow rock this time were films of 3 documents stamped secret, including another one dealing with troops pulling out from Vietnam. Dated September 24th, 1971, and entitled Letter of Instructions for the 9th Incremental Redeployment of U.S. Army Forces, and forgive me, I'll skip the acronyms. As Cassidy was placing his fake rock, FBI agents saw a white 2-door Vega with Florida plates, 1E23144, cruising north on nearby North Shore Drive. At 9:24 p.m., Gilberto Lopez appeared again on foot, but with a bold new approach. O'Flaherty recalled, Lopez, his wife, and their 2-year-old son walk up. They're holding the kid's hand. Lopez, actively assisted by his wife, began searching the area under the bushes. and they clear the drop. They left in the Vega. The Russians were picking up the pace. Cassidy had now had 3 drops and a personal meeting in Washington in only 9 months. 4 days after Christmas, although it was not the usual form of communication from the Soviets, Cassidy received a 1-page letter, dated Christmas Day, in the mail, addressed to him at his home in St. Petersburg. Inside was what looked like a blank piece of paper. To develop it, Cassidy used the special pencil lead he had received from the GRU. But it was not an easy task. The lead was difficult to crush, O'Flaherty said. Joe was using a rolling pin for a while to crush it into powder and then add water. The idea was to dissolve it and use a cotton swab on the blank page, and it would raise the writing. The lab said the writing itself was prepared from barium, strontium, and lead, and raised with tetrahydroxyquinone. The lab identified that as the chemical in the special pencil lead. As Cassidy swabbed cotton over the blank sheet he had received, the words slowly appeared. Quote, "Dear friend, thanks for your efforts. Top secret September document was good. For it, I'll pay $3,000 for whole September package. I owe you $6,000. Don't worry about money. I never failed you." Unquote. The letter went on to approve the next series of numbered drop sites. Quote, "Places 2, 5, 6, 7 aren't good, so correct our schedule as follows. September 10, place 10. December 20, place 3. I need new secret document. Now your film are good. My best wishes for new year." Unquote. The letter also informed Cassidy, quote, "Your trip abroad is canceled." Unquote. For Cassidy, it was a reprieve from another round of beer, peanuts, and cornflakes in Mexico City. But for the FBI, the cancellation posed a puzzle. The counterintelligence analysts speculated that it was linked to the FBI's recent arrest on espionage charges of Walter Perkins, an Air Force Master Sergeant. Perkins had been the highest-ranking non-commissioned intelligence officer in the Air Force Defense Weapons Center at Tyndall Air Force Base in the Florida Panhandle. He had had complete access to classified information on sophisticated air-to-air missile systems. He had been arrested by the FBI in October at the Panama City airport as he prepared to board a plane for Mexico City, with 5 classified documents in his briefcase. According to the FBI, Perkins was en route to meet his GRU handler. At Perkins' court-martial, an Air Force counterintelligence agent in the Office of Special Investigations said the tip about Perkins had come from the police in Tokyo, where the sergeant had been formerly stationed. An informant said that Perkins had been in contact with Edward Kavanov, a Soviet colonel in the Tokyo ministry. OSI then put Perkins under full-time surveillance, installing 6 video cameras in his office that recorded him copying information from classified documents onto index cards. Perkins was convicted and sentenced to 3 years by a military judge. Pardon me. I'll say good evening to everybody. How you doing, Jerome Brown? Yeah, I saw your reference to that article. I need to check that out. This Van der Bosch we need to follow, his essay and who picks up on it. I think it's a very important point, Jerome. Thank you for that. Hello, Deborah. I see you made it back home, and I'm glad you made it safe. I understand you did some of the driving. That was a good spell for my friend Andy. And anyway, we're all friends. Yeah. And Deborah, I still have not really opened up your great archive work yet. I will soon. As soon as Andy gets here, we're going to go through it together. We code talk to try to sound like OSS. No. We just leave out the vowel, the verbs, because the articles, because we're Russians, we're Ruskies. We don't know about A and then D and stuff. Just kidding. In Salt Lake City, where he had been sent to bug and wiretap the Lopezes, George Owen was alarmed at what he saw. FBI agents there, more attuned to following around bank robbery subjects than Russian spies, were too obvious to suit Owen. According to Charlie Bevels, Owen came back and told headquarters, "I've watched those guys handling surveillance. Every bureau car has antennas 19 feet high." Hearing of Owen's dismaying report, Robert J. Chamay, an FBI counterintelligence agent at Washington, urged that something be done, fast. Chamay, 6'4" with the frame of a linebacker, volunteered and became the case agent in Salt Lake City. Wiretapping and bugging the Lopezes had presented problems, Chamay remembered. Quote, "They lived in married housing at the university with one child, the little boy. They were in a 2-story concrete building on the top floor. George had put in the technical coverage, but it was hard to do in the concrete building. Owen installed a dual-purpose microphone that tapped the phones and also allowed the FBI to overhear room conversations. The microphone was concealed in a wall telephone. The FBI had managed to gain access to the spy's apartment long enough to switch the wall phone for an identical hot unit. The Bureau had also installed a remote surveillance camera trained on the entrance to the building that transmitted the pictures to a television screen in the FBI's office downtown. Agents conducted physical surveillance of the couple as well. Since illegals working as Soviet spies are rarely identified, the Bureau wanted to learn as much as possible about the Lopezes and their actions. Eugene Peterson, supervising the case from FBI headquarters, decided to insert an undercover agent who would have the difficult and delicate mission of trying to become close to the Palmettos. Peterson reviewed the files of several hundred FBI agents, looking for just the right candidate. Finally, he narrowed the field to 14 agents with Hispanic backgrounds. From the list, Peterson zeroed in on Aurelio Flores, a 29-year-old agent in Miami. Not only was Flores of Mexican-American background and bilingual in Spanish and English, he was almost exactly the age of Gilberto Lopez. Peterson sent the paperwork up to John P. Moore, the number 3 official of the Bureau. Moore noted that Flores had a toddler. "What about the child?" he asked. "There might be a security problem." Peterson was incredulous. "He's only 18 months old," he protested. "Yes," Moore said, "but my grandson is 18 months old, and he says, 'Grandpa, G-Man.'" Moore had a point. Although, as events were to unfold, it was not the undercover agent's child who talked out of turn. Headquarters approved Peterson's choice, and Flores prepared to move to Salt Lake City with his wife and son. Peterson arranged a new resume for Flores. Peterson contacted a former FBI man who was chief of personnel security for a large private corporation in Miami, and the ex-agent agreed to insert a fake employment record for Flores into the company's files. Aurelio Flores, a compact man with brown hair and hazel eyes, was born in Del Rio, Texas, graduated from St. Mary's University in San Antonio, and served as a captain with the Army Airborne Special Forces for 5 years before he joined the FBI in 1970. To go undercover in Salt Lake City, ideally, Flores would have used a completely new identity with backstopped documentation. There was a problem, however. Since the plan was for Flores to approach Lopez as a fellow student, Flores applied for admission to the University of Utah as a graduate student in geography. "We would have had to change my college transcripts if I used another name," he said. "I used my own name." If Flores succeeded in befriending Lopez, it was possible that Soviets might check on his background. As a precaution, the Bureau asked various government agencies and private companies to alert it if anyone made inquiries about Flores. "We checked to make sure no one was checking on me. We had stops at different places so that in case they were asking questions, we would know." Flores was accepted by the university and arrived on campus in January 1972. Lopez, he discovered, was an avid badminton player, and Flores briefly considered approaching him as a fellow enthusiast. He decided there was a better way. The Palmettos had enrolled their 2-year-old son, Nayar, at a Montessori school daycare center not far from the university. Flores did the same with his son. "The first time I went to the daycare center, I parked behind his car and locked him in, so he had to wait until I left to get out." In the parking lot, Flores apologized in Spanish for blocking Lopez. "Dispénsame," Flores said, excusing himself. "I'll get out of your way." "No problem," Lopez replied. He seemed pleased to meet another Spanish-speaking parent. In the days that followed, as they both visited the daycare center, Flores gradually got to know Lopez. We had to wait for the children, and I introduced myself. Soon they became friends. Flores was patient. Lopez liked to talk politics, and Flores made a point of being a good listener. I listened to his ideas on Marxism and Stalin. He was an admirer of Stalin. One day, the Palmettos were going to a function at the anthropological department. There were some poetry readings for visiting scholars, that sort of thing. They asked me to babysit. Headquarters could scarcely have expected Flores to get any closer to the target. It might have been unprecedented in the annals of espionage. A Russian spy had unknowingly asked an FBI agent to babysit for him. Whenever Lopez planned to travel to Mexico or to Florida to service one of Cassidy's drops, he told Flores that he was getting ready to take a trip. Of course, from the wiretaps on his apartment, the FBI usually already knew that. Although Flores had not worked undercover before, he proved to be ingenious and creative. One night, Flores and his wife invited Gilberto and Alicia to their home. "I had him over to dinner and saved all the glasses, so we'd had a full set of prints from him and from her. We loaded the plates into the dishwasher, but they didn't notice we didn't put the glasses in. We got very good prints." Lopez and his wife had very different personalities, Flores recalled. She was a good swimmer. He was afraid of the water. So sometimes I could get her at the deep end of the pool and talk to her alone. He would stay in the shallow end. She spoke French, some German. She had traveled through France and had lived with a family in France. She was quite a linguist. He was more gregarious, talkative, would have made a hell of a salesman, go right up to you at a party and start talking. She was more the quiet, intellectual one. But Alicia made one basic conviction clear. Flores said she hated Americans. Similarly, Lopez trusted Flores only because of his Mexican background. Once Gilberto told the two kids, mine and his, that they must always be friends and not fight. He said to them, "You must get a pencil and stick it into the blue eyes of the gringos." Lopez was paid well for his espionage work. The Soviets were paying him in cash every time he made a pickup. We had access to his bank accounts, After each visit to a drop site in Florida, he would make a deposit in his bank account. They would pay him between $8,000 and $12,000 per drop. Out of the total, however, Lopez had to pay his tuition and travel expenses. From the wiretaps, the FBI learned that Lopez was planning to move with his family to Austin in 1972. The Mexican had received a Ford Foundation grant to study anthropology at the University of Texas. Lopez broke the news to Flores, though he did not realize, of course, that his good friend already knew it. I said, "Great, good luck." Then I said, "I'm not that happy here myself." Flores had previously mentioned to Lopez that he had grown up in Texas. He said, "Maybe you need a change. Maybe you should transfer too. I'll call you when I get over there." So when he called, I said, "I've been thinking about it, and I've decided to go over there too." Flores applied on his own to the University of Texas and again was accepted as a graduate student in geography. He moved to Austin in 1972. The FBI had no difficulty gaining access to the duplex the Palmettos rented in Austin. "While I was at Salt Lake," Flores said, "Gilberto sent me a key to his place in Austin." For the drop on the night of Saturday, April 1st, 1972, Cassidy had selected and Danilin had agreed to a site in central St. Petersburg, a popular trysting place bordered by Straub Park and the North Yacht Basin. The FBI took up positions nearby, ready to photograph whoever appeared. At 9 p.m., Cassidy placed his rock at the base of a metal pole of a street sign at the intersection of Bayshore Drive Northeast and 5th Avenue Northeast. Inside were films of 7 documents, stamped secret, and others marked with lower classifications of confidential and for official use only. One of the documents labeled secret, dated December 23, 1971, again related to the pullout of American forces from Vietnam and was entitled Letter of Instruction for the 10th Incremental Redeployment of U.S. Army Forces from RVN. The pickup proved to be another family affair. At 9:20 p.m., FBI agents spotted Gilberto Lopez and his wife walking near the drop site. Lopez was carrying his son in a backpack. They stopped at the street sign, and Alicia Lopez put down a black and white striped plastic shopping bag. Looking like an ordinary couple fussing with their baby carrier, Alicia helped take the backpack from Gilberto. He then kneeled as though adjusting the backpack, and as he did, he reached down, picked up the hollow rock, and slipped it into the shopping bag. Then he helped arrange the carrier on Alicia's back. They walked off, Gilberto smiling and carrying the plastic bag. To any passersby, the episode would have looked innocuous. The FBI captured the whole episode on film. Mission accomplished, the Lopezes returned to their downtown hotel, the Sorrento, for the night. But Lopez, despite this smooth performance, had a touch of television's Maxwell Smart in his spying activities. Once again, he forgot to leave the troublesome paper bag. At 9:52 p.m., he returned to the drop site and remedied his error. The next day dawned warm, and O'Flaherty spent most of his Easter Sunday morning in a stifling hot panel truck, watching the hotel. The Lopezes left, and O'Flaherty followed them to the train station. They got on a train to Washington. I gave the ticket agent $100 in exchange for the bills they gave the ticket taker as evidence, in case we could trace the serial numbers. We assumed he was on his way to make his drop to Danilin. When Lopez returned to Salt Lake City, the FBI learned he was planning to take a brief trip to Mexico. There was some indication he might clear a drop on the way, Chimay said. In May, we mounted a massive surveillance which started in Salt Lake. We used planes, campers, motorcycles. He drove into Arizona and then through New Mexico. We used a lot of people. We had people at all the exits from the city, First to pick him up leaving was the motorcycle, a special agent dressed like a typical biker. We had other FBI men dressed like cowboys. To avoid detection, the Bureau switched vehicles and people. The motorcycle went into a pickup truck, and then, when daylight came, we used the airplane. The surveillance ended at El Paso as Lopez crossed the border into Mexico. But the results of the enormous surveillance were disappointing to the FBI. We never saw him do anything, Chamay said. In July, Cassidy traveled to Washington once more to meet with O'Loughlin in Springfield. In the hollow rock at the pickup site, Cassidy received $12,000 and new rollover cameras, photographic equipment, and film. Concealed in the rock as well were capsules containing the same organic chemical compound that was in the special pencil lead that Cassidy had struggled to crush. The capsules, the Soviets hoped, would prove easier to dissolve in water. At their meeting, O'Loughlin pressed Cassidy to provide more top-secret documents, especially, quote, like you gave last September. But all in all, from the Soviet point of view, matters were progressing smoothly. There had now been 4 successful drops in Florida. The secret documents were flowing, and through Cassidy, Moscow had achieved another intelligence coup. It had penetrated a vital American military center, the United States Strike Command. When the Palmettos went to Austin, the FBI moved its entire surveillance operation. Even before the Lopezes arrived in Austin, the FBI had cased the house they had rented. The couple was moving into one half of a duplex. The Bureau discovered that there was a crawl space over both sides of the duplex. Carol T. Allen, an FBI technical expert at headquarters, was dispatched from Washington to install video cameras in the crawl space and prepare the house electronically before the Palmettos moved in. The rooms were bugged, the telephones tapped. Allen worked in the hot, cramped crawl space of the duplex to install the miniature concealed cameras, which were so small that they operated through 2 tiny pinholes drilled in the ceiling. They put in 2 video cameras, Charlie Bevel said, one over top of his desk and one from the side. The sophisticated cameras worked, allowing the FBI to watch the Lopezes inside their home. Lopez had a secret cache where he kept his espionage paraphernalia, microdot reader, and other material, Bevel said, so we could see him on video taking out his materials. The video camera sent back live pictures to a duplex the FBI had rented about 500 yards away, where the Bureau's technicians had all of their equipment. Through the video, the FBI watched Lopez put on a headset and listen to radio signals. The National Security Agency, the nation's global electronic eavesdropping arm, had been picking up this encoded signals for a long time, but had not known to whom they were being sent. Then, Lopez made a grievous operational error. A former senior FBI official familiar with the case explained what happened. He took off a headset to say something to his wife, and we heard 5-digit coded broadcasts from Moscow or Havana coming through the headset, and we were able to match them with the shortwave broadcasts we had suspected were directed at him. If he had never taken the headset off, we never could have confirmed it. The headset figured in another incident that took place when Flores was babysitting for Lopez's son, Nayar. What happened proved that even the most careful spy cannot protect himself against the unexpected. Quote, "One time I had the TV on at my apartment," Flores recounted, "watching a war movie, just Nayar, my son, and myself, in the middle of the afternoon. Gilberto's little boy didn't talk much. In the movie, a ship was sinking, or torpedo hit it or something, and a radio man puts on a headset and starts sending an SOS. The little boy jumps up, runs to the TV, points at it, and says, 'Papa, Papa. When the Lopezes left Austin for 2 weeks on a trip, the FBI entered the duplex and removed his shortwave radio, which was of East German make. The radio was sent to headquarters, taken apart and analyzed. We got back in before he returned, and it would be missed, Flores recalled, so we knew what frequencies he would receive. Later, the Soviets modified the radio and made it digital. We could not hear the signals, but we were getting them from NSA. Our equipment read it as good as his did. Although the FBI could watch Lopez receiving radio signals, they could not read the content of the encoded messages. Determined to decode the encrypted signals, the FBI again waited until the Lopezes were away on a trip. Using the door key that Lopez had sent to Flores, FBI agents entered the apartment and copied the, quote, one-time pads containing the random numbers that Lopez used to decode his radio signals. Now the FBI was able to decipher and read all of Palmetto's messages. He would burn the pages of the one-time pads, and after using them, Flores said, but destroying the pages no longer made any difference. The FBI had them. Lopez received a wide variety of encoded messages from the Russians. Flores recalled, some Soviet agents were being thrown out of England, and he would get a message, don't worry, you're in no danger. Some were, cancel plan A, we are doing plan B. He would be told to go to Florida or Mexico. And some were personal messages. Congratulations on your son's birthday, or your birthday, or we are very happy with what you're doing. You're doing a marvelous job for us. The video camera enabled the FBI to read some of the messages at the very moment that Lopez decoded them. When he wrote something on his notepad, we could see it, Flores said. The camera also revealed the tensions in the Lopez household. All was not harmonious on the domestic front, according to Charlie Bevels. At one point, she, Mrs. Lopez, had a gun and pointed it at him and told him to quit bugging her. She was going to blow his head off. After some months, Lopez and his family moved out of the duplex and into a single-family house at another section of Austin. The couple also acquired a large, unfriendly dog, Flores recalled. They bought this big black female dog, a German shepherd named Bria, which means black in Spanish, black tar in Spanish. A big vicious dog barked a lot. I became friends with the dog. I made sure I played with the dog and fed the dog, so if the FBI technicians needed to get in, I could go in. But when the Palmettos went on a trip, they took the dog with them, so that problem did not come up. Lopez continued to service the drops in Florida. On the night of September 10, 1972, Joe Cassidy left a rock on a new drop site at Anvil Street and 26th Avenue North in St. Petersburg. The film contained one document stamped secret and several marked with lower classifications. The document stamped secret must have pleased Danilin because it was the first to deal with nuclear weapons. Dated February 1, 1972, it was entitled Operational Feasibility in Mating Nuclear Bombs to Aircraft. A March 1971 document marked confidential was headed General Flag Officer Staffing in OJCS and JCS activities. The factory of the Morgan Yacht Company overlooked the drop site, and O'Flaherty and his agents, having obtained permission from the owner, were waiting on scaffolds along the windows inside. Lopez arrives at 9:27 p.m. in a white Pontiac with black hardtop with his wife and son. The car parked at the corner. Lopez got out, knelt at the stop sign, and picked up a hollow rock. He returned to the car, and they drove off. Nearly 2 months later, on November 2nd, Cassidy received a letter from Danilin. The paper inside appeared blank as usual. When he developed the secret writing and showed it to the FBI, the message was unnerving. Danilin asked by name for specific U.S. military documents that he wanted. How could the GRU have obtained such a shopping list of secret documents? The implication was both obvious and scary. Moscow had a genuine mole buried somewhere in the American military, perhaps one who had access to an index or list of classified material, but not to the actual documents. One document OLoughlin requested was entitled Volume 2 Joint Strategic Objectives Plan for Fiscal Year 1975 to 1982. OLoughlin also asked Cassidy for data on the yield and number of warheads of Minuteman III and Poseidon missiles. Then, in December, 5 days before Christmas, Cassidy put down another rock at the street sign by the marina along Bayshore Drive. Inside was film of 4 documents marked secret and of others with lower classification stamps. The document marked secret, although not the one OLoughlin had requested, was dated September 19, 1972, and was called Nuclear Capabilities Reporting JCS Message Number 5252. At 9:22 p.m., a yellow compact with Florida plates cruised by the drop site. 4 minutes later, Lopez was seen alone nearby, walking south on Bayshore Drive. At the street sign, he picked up the rock, put it in a camera bag, and strolled away. Lopez had checked into the St. Petersburg Hilton the day before at dawn. He checked out the next day and took a Greyhound bus to Washington, D.C. The next drop site in St. Petersburg took place on April 1, 1973. The Russians had approved a new drop site in a quiet residential area at 89th Avenue North and 5th Street North. Casing the area, O'Flaherty saw that it was next to a construction site. The builder, Aaron Applefield, allowed the FBI to use the model home on the site as a lookout post. Fred and Pearl Redfield, an elderly couple whose home overlooked the drop site, also allowed the FBI to use their house. An agent loitered on the street in a phone booth. Cassidy put down his hollow rock at 9 p.m. It contained photographs of 3 documents, Sam's secret, and of several others marked with lower classifications. At 9:33 p.m., the waiting agents spotted Lopez driving alone near the drop site in a yellow late-model Fiat. A moment later, Lopez, with his German Shepherd on a leash, approached the corner. Doing his best to look like a neighborhood resident out walking his dog, he picked up the rock, got back into the Fiat, and took off. Lopez then drove to Washington. Again, not wanting to alarm the spy, the FBI did not tail the car, but instead set up picket surveillance with agents stationed along his likely route. This was the last drop and pickup in Florida. 1 month later, Cassidy, at age 52, with 30 years in service, had retired from the Army. That did not discourage the Soviets, who were making plans to use their mole in a new capacity. Wallflower had left the military, but not his life as a spy. In Austin, the Palmetto case took a bizarre and astonishing twist. Flores had done his job so well that Lopez tried to recruit him. He came by one night and pitched me in the living room in Texas. He wanted to recruit me. He said, "I have friends in Mexico that work for another government. I told them about you, and they are very interested." He asked to take a photograph of me to show to my friends. I said, "Sure." So he took a photograph of me. He said, "They won't come here. You have to go to Mexico." Headquarters debated the risks of letting Flores travel to Mexico. Finally, the Bureau said, "No, don't go. You know too much about the technical side." The cameras we used in Austin that worked through the pinpricks on the ceiling were the same kind that were used by NASA in the moon landing. We got the cameras from NASA. The Bureau didn't want the Soviets to know we had that technology. They were concerned I might be invited to Nicaragua or the Soviet Union and given sodium pentothal. There was another reason that the FBI declined to let Flores go to Mexico. If we operate outside the U.S., we are going to have to let the CIA know about it. The Bureau did not want to involve the CIA. In the summer of 1974, the Lopezes left their books and furniture with Flores and went off to Europe. They visited the Soviet Union, Flores said. They told friends they had been all over Europe. It was a cover story. We think he spent the summer in Moscow. That autumn, Flores prepared to end his undercover role and transfer to the Bureau's Los Angeles division. The Palmetto assignment and the pretense had not been easy on his wife. He had already followed Lopez to 2 cities. I thought I had done enough. I wanted my son to get into first grade in California and not be uprooted again. Flores told Lopez and his family he and his family were moving away. Gilberto was already thinking about leaving Austin. When we were saying goodbye, he said he had applied to the University of Minnesota. He said he might become a professor. Well, that's the end of chapter 12 of Cassidy's Run. The next one, chapter 13, is titled Ixora, I-X-O-R-A. And I will leave it to next time to figure out what I-X-O-R-A is. Well, it's an exciting story, and I've enjoyed reading it. Thanks for being with me tonight, and thanks for your support. We will talk to you tomorrow night just for fun. Tomorrow night, we're just going to have fun. We're going to celebrate St. Patty's Day together at 8 p.m., and so we'll sing some of the good old Irish songs and possibly get the fiddle out. We'll see.